What's up, everybody? I'm Josh Meek, the Uber Geek. Thank you very much for joining me here on Pretty Dece, your daily entertainment and pop culture podcast. No matter how you are joining me, whether you are listening via the Anchor app, whether you are listening on the podcast, or whether you are watching on the brand new YouTube channel in video form, you can find that by searching YouTube for Pretty Dece or by visiting prettydeceshow.com/video to find that link. In comic book news today, we've got some massive comic book stuff going on. I really can't overstate how big of a news this is. And what's going on is that DC Comics announced today that Brian Michael Bendis, the comic writer, would have an exclusive writing deal with DC Comics going forward. This normally wouldn't be a huge deal. Writers jump back and forth between Marvel and DC all the time, but most writers also aren't Brian Michael Bendis. Of all of the people writing comics today, he is the one that you could argue as being truly a modern great. He has influenced so much of Marvel Comics in the time that he has worked with the company in the past, 20 years or so. And his name has kind of become synonymous with Marvel Comics. You might not know the name Brian Michael Bendis, but if you are related to comics in any way, if you follow comics in any way, you most certainly do. But, if you kind of are tangentially a fan of comics or superheroes, you might not know his name, but you certainly are aware of the characters that he has created and the characters that he has had a hand in kind of modernizing and really putting a new, fresh spin on. These characters are characters like Miles Morales, the Ultimate Spider-Man. I'm sure you know him, are aware of him, maybe even really, really like him. That character was created during Bendis' run on Ultimate Spider-Man. He started that series and had a 111 issue streak on the Ultimate Spider-Man series, which actually, so with he and artist Mark Bagley, that is the longest consecutive artist-writer collaboration streak on a book in Marvel history. And then he left the book for a little bit and came back and created the Miles Morales character. And again, just writing just pure gold for that entire run of Ultimate Spider-Man. That is kind of the defining run of kind of modern Spider-Man that really cemented so much of what has now become, canon, accepted, traditional Spider-Man lore, Spider-Man backstory, even though it was originally a kind of spin-off story as a kind of a retelling. It has become the modern mythos of what Spider-Man really is. It's one of the best comics of all time, and so many amazing stories in that run, so many amazing characters that were created. Bendis has also created some really, really awesome stuff. He did some fantastic work on Daredevil to really just define what that character is and kind of the dark grittiness that is very, a part of Daredevil at this point that just goes hand in hand with Daredevil. Bendis created Jessica Jones, the character Jessica Jones, which now has gone on to be a super incredible hit on Netflix. She's a very prominent member of Marvel Comics in general, and he was the creator of that character. He reinvented the Avengers and kind of breathed new life into so many of those characters on that team, including Luke Cage. He really is synonymous with what Marvel Comics is doing right now. That's why this is such a big deal, because they're having one of their most influential, if not their most influential writer, just leave and jump ship for the competition. It's certainly a wild thing to have happen. Marvel put out a statement about this. They said that Brian is a great partner and has contributed incredible stories and characters to the Marvel Universe over the years. We appreciate his creativity and professionalism, and we wish him the best on future projects. So, of course, marketing speak for, what are we going to do? Bendis, to his credit, he tweeted and said, "This is real. I love you all. Change is good. Change is healthy. I am bursting with ideas and inspirations. Details to come. Stay tuned." That was in response to the DC tweet announcing working with Brian Michael Bendis. Of course, we have no idea about the details of this deal. We don't know how long the exclusivity is. And kind of the most important part, we don't know what he's going to be working on yet, just that he's going to be working with DC. He says that he has tons of ideas and inspiration. Obviously, bringing in someone like Brian Michael Bendis into DC Comics is a huge get for them. So you would imagine that he has a pretty prominent role when he comes in, whether that is creating a brand new book based on one of the main characters, you know, spinning off a like Justice League where he gets to kind of write everybody and kind of do an Avengers type take on that team. Who knows what it is, but I'm sure he has the pick of the entire litter for what he wants to do, because, you know, I'm sure they will just like open the kingdom to him to let him decide. I'm super excited. This is one of the first times that he has ever written for DC, ever written any of these characters. You know, it's a fresh take. He's coming in with fresh eyes, having only seen these characters from afar, and now he gets to put his spin on them, you know, his classic Brian Michael Bendis spin. I'm very excited to see what he can do. It certainly makes me worried for Marvel Comics in general. You know, just in the last couple years, Marvel, it seems like, has been slipping a little bit, at least in my opinion, while DC Comics seems to really be kind of righting the ship and getting stuff in order and really knocking things out of the park. You know, DC has been doing this Rebirth line, which, you know, across the board has been really, really good, getting people on board in new comics, getting good jumping on points for people. Meanwhile, Marvel has tried similar things and to a large degree has bungled them, unfortunately. And Marvel has had some very large crossover events that have just not done well. People have not bought into, people have not thought were cool. So while Marvel is doing really great on the movie side and their characters are still, you know, super recognizable and incredibly marketable, and they're making a ton of money for Disney, the comics themselves, the source of all these characters, maybe is slipping a little bit. Meanwhile, DC, while maybe they haven't found the exact perfect footing on the movie side, they're certainly doing a really good job on the comics side. So while maybe that's not affecting Marvel yet in the larger grand scheme of things, it eventually will, because all of the comic storylines, all of the comic stuff feeds up into those movies. So, you know, if you aren't producing good comics, well, then eventually you won't be producing good movies anymore. So, it stands to be seen whether Bendis' move over to DC has greater effects on the DC comics and the DC movies as a whole. You know, obviously, he had a big effect on Marvel movies and TV and stuff just from the characters that he created. But as of yet, we don't know if he'll have a large role in the movie side of the DC business. But he will certainly make a huge impact on DC Comics. I'm really excited to see what he does, and really excited and kind of trepidatious to see where Marvel goes next. So that's going to be it for Pretty Dece for today. Thank you very much for joining me. Follow Pretty Dece on Facebook and Twitter. You can find it at Pretty Dece Show, or you can just visit prettydeceshow.com for all those links and stories and stuff like that. I'll be back tomorrow for more awesome stuff. In the meantime, make sure you subscribe so you never miss a daily episode.